All right, we have a breaking news story detailing how Donald Trump is quickly beginning to realize that Vladimir Putin took advantage of him. He tricked him and was not being a good faith actor during their negotiations. He's never been a good faith actor, and he's already beginning to stab him in the back. So Trump is flip-flopping. This reads, Trump threatens new sanctions and tariffs on Russia to force peace talks. And this is a rapid change in Trump's strategy because he's been going very hard on Zelensky and towing a softer line with Russia, but our master negotiator in chief now realizes, hey, I may not be getting anywhere, even though I promised I would fix this in 24 hours. So halfway through this article, it says, a senior White House official said, quote, Trump's rage has been intensifying in recent days due to Russia's behavior and its escalation of strikes on Ukraine at the same time that he's been pushing for a ceasefire. And it's like, duh, dude, Vladimir Putin has never, ever been a good faith actor. He has broken treaty after peace deal after memorandum, and he takes advantage of suckers in the West like Donald Trump. Donald Trump, for some reason, thought Putin would have a soft spot for him and would reel back his troops. But I want you to listen to this very important video from BBC detailing how Russia plans to launch a summer-spring offensive off of the back of Donald Trump's pulling out of Ukraine. Let's take a listen. Make sure you drop a like to help boost this video.
The Trump administration claims that by pausing military aid to Ukraine and by stopping intelligence sharing with Kyiv, America is facilitating the peace process. But from this article in today's Moskovsky Komsomolets, it seems that Russia views US pressure on Ukraine as a golden opportunity to make gains on the battlefield. Ukrainian troops have been left without intelligence on the eve of a major spring-summer campaign. The Ukrainian army, deprived of US military equipment and American intelligence, will soon have a nasty surprise. Analysts believe the Russian army may launch a large spring-summer offensive. It will require a massive effort by Ukraine to discover the details.
Because the U.S. is no longer sharing information with them. I'm going to continue playing this, but remember, just a few days ago, the U.S. stopped sharing intelligence on Russia with Ukraine, which is a massive blow to our soft power and just makes no sense at all. The U.S. no longer provides information about targets in Russia. And again, a week ago, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a halt to offensive cyber operations against Russia. Russia has been eating our lunch when it comes to information warfare since the Cold War, but really since 2014, and now Pete Hegseth wants to withdraw from the global stage on pushing back against Russia because Donald Trump is ordering him to. It is a massive, we're ceding so much power on the global stage, and let me continue this BBC video because it's important.
A Russian military analyst tells the paper, many analysts are sure that Russia is preparing big reserve forces, large units that will 100% advance in the spring-summer period. Right now it's the muddy season, but when the ground dries, we'll move. In the past, the enemy always discovered our plans beforehand. It was very difficult for us to conceal the movements of large troop formations. NATO saw everything with their satellites and transmitted all the information to the Ukrainian army by radio-technical means. Now we have a higher chance of finding the enemy's weak spot and striking when they're not expecting it.
They have a higher chance of finding the enemy's weak spot because of an opening that the U.S. left, because the U.S. is being weak on the world stage. It is incredibly disgusting. Look at that is a Russian newspaper admitting right there that they have a higher chance of finding the weak spot off of the back of Donald Trump. And before I continue this, let me go back to this article. President Trump on Friday threatened new sanctions and tariffs on Russia as he ramped up pressure on the Kremlin to agree to a ceasefire and peace settlement with Ukraine. And again, this is just a flip-flop. Our master negotiator, as I said, is flip-flopping like a fish out of water that says Trump threatens Russia with additional sanctions and tariffs. Nothing gives me confidence in my president like him flipping his strategy basically on a daily basis. This continues. This is the first time since taking office that Trump has issued a public threat against Russia after taking a softer line towards Putin and hammering Zelensky. What a wild sentence to read. Trump is a month and a half into office, and this is the first time he's made a threat against Russia. And again, a senior White House official said, quote, Trump's rage has been intensifying in recent days due to Russia's behavior and its escalation of strikes on Ukraine at the same time that he's been pushing for a ceasefire. Earlier this week, Trump made the decision to suspend weapon supplies and intelligence sharing to Ukraine, and this is the result.
So how now Moscow views America as the good guys and Europe as the troublemakers. In its reporting of yesterday's EU summit, the government paper Российская газета declares in Brussels the summit participants undermined America's peace initiatives. While Trump is demanding a swift end to the Ukraine conflict, the Europeans and the Brits standing behind them are trying to come up with ways to continue pouring oil on the fire in Ukraine.
Okay. That is a huge distortion of events coming from this Russian newspaper. The reason why Trump wants instant peace is because that lessens the chance of Ukraine getting security guarantees. By the way, all that this reinforces is that Zelensky needs security guarantees. That's what he was politely asking for in the Oval Office. He said, hey, if we're going to do a peace deal of any sort, if we're going to give you any of our minerals, we need security guarantees because you need to understand Putin is not a good faith actor. He's broken treaty after treaty after treaty. He broke the Budapest Memorandum when we gave up our nukes. He still invaded us and tried to take away our sovereignty. Putin doesn't care about international law. In fact, he would be more than happy to throw international law away if it meant he got to act on his imperial ambitions. So the least we can do for Ukraine is provide them a security guarantee. And this proves it. You know, it's like I said in a video a few days ago, if Donald Trump is able to strike some sort of shitty peace deal, Russia will likely reinvade and relaunch an offensive within 4 years. But I was naive because it doesn't look like it's going to be 4 years. It looks like it's going to be 4 months. They're going to launch a spring-summer offensive over the next few months due to an opening that our president left them.
Another very pro-Kremlin paper, Izvestia, claims that Britain is once again trying to derail the peace process in Ukraine. And let me introduce you to one of Moscow's favourite anti-British sayings that you often hear Russian officials and pro-Kremlin commentators use. It's quoted here by a Russian professor. The Englishwoman always causes a mess. This saying dates back to the 19th century and still applies today. By contrast, there is praise here for America's pragmatism. What's more, today's edition of the business paper RBK reports the head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Russia, Robert Agee, is preparing a white paper for the US authorities with proposals for removing sanctions.
This is just disgusting, and now Trump is completely flip-flopping. This is why the US favorability ratings in Europe have plunged after Trump took office. And again, it's important to have allies. After the 2016 election, you can see that the countries of Germany had the biggest drop right here with this gray line. You can see France has a massive drop. We see a drop with Denmark. And then once Biden takes office, he's got more of a steady hand. Yes, he was an old dude. But he had a steady hand, and our allies trusted him. He was predictable. And then it falls directly back down. The country that you see with the largest drop right here, the blue line, that's Denmark, probably because of Trump's autocratic threats against them.
Mr. Agee tells the paper, first of all, we're asking for sanctions to be removed in the aviation sector. This relates to spare parts and technical support for aircraft. Secondly, we're proposing removing the ban on American companies investing in Russia. The third part involves removing sanctions on Russian banks. The fourth part, removing restrictions on the supply of luxury goods, including cosmetics.
I mean, yeah, absolutely disgusting. That's why our favorability rating is going down, because we're ceding all of this soft power, and Trump is flip-flopping on a daily basis. Now, Trump's pressure led Ukraine to agree to the idea of a ceasefire and express willingness to engage. But senior U.S. and Ukrainian officials will meet next week in Saudi Arabia to discuss a framework for the peace agreement. What Trump is saying, quote, based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield, I'm strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you. So Trump oddly says here that Russia is pounding Ukraine. He's just addicted to the display of strength. that other countries can maybe show, even though, remember, Russia is uniquely in a weak position. They thought they'd be to Kyiv in 2 or 3 days. That was 3 years ago. I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Love all of you. Peace out.